It's a great day on the pod, right? Because I'm chatting today with my good friend Ronnie Ali, former audio supervisor who has successfully pivoted into a second career with his baseball and softball catchers academy. We dive into his audio origins starting at a rental house in Burbank, shout out location sound, and his fast rise up the ladder where he took over audio supervising The Apprentice in season 3. We also reminisce about Pros versus Joes, Bo Jackson, and Booby Miles. We touch on Ronnie's decision to ultimately leave the business over various reasons, and we also chat about how audio supervisors hear literally everything. This is B. Smith's Second Sticks, and we have speed. Ronnie Ali, welcome to the pod, man.
What's going on, brother? Been a
How
while.
you doing? Oh my God,
Man,
I miss your face, and I get to see
right.
your face. It's been like I don't know how long it's been. How long has it been?
It's been a while, man. I want to say the last Hell's Kitchen that they did over at the Costco slash CarMax spot.
Yeah, that I remember that. That's when the show moved for. Where was it at before that? Where was Hell's
The f-
Kitchen before that?
Culver City.
Yeah, it was in Culver City for years.
Years, yeah. And then I think we did 4 seasons at that Costco.
Yep. And then
Four,
we
six.
ended up doing a pair of seasons at the old IKEA in Burbank. Then it
Mm,
moved to Vegas for a pair of seasons, and now it's in Connecticut. Still going, but
yeah. Yeah, I think
But
my boy Jimmy
anyway,
John does
yeah, yep. Good old Jimmy
it.
John. Well, it's good to have you here to talk to. You're one of the first people I thought to because I know that you have made a pivot out of the industry basically, and we're going to talk about that in a little bit. But I just wanted to see
Yeah.
how things are going. I see you are in a fabulous batting cage. Is that in your backyard?
Yeah, it's in my backyard, man. This is what I do now. I run my catcher's academy out of here.
So
Been lucky
cool.
enough to produce some top level softball catchers. I've sent 20 to D1 schools on scholarship since I got out the business. I've been doing this side of it. I want to say since 2019, so it kind of overlapped the industry a little bit. But yeah, it's been going good, man. I'm proud of it.
That's great, man. I'm so proud of you. I mean, you talked a little bit about this, but I don't know if you talked about this exactly. I think this is great.
Yeah, when we were see, I played a little bit of pro baseball, so like it was almost like I had two lives. Right? I had that world and then the TV business. And it's funny, neither one knows the other side. Like sometimes I mention stuff about TV or like the kids look at how I'll edit their promo videos and they'll be like, "Man, that looks so professional." And I'm like you guys should have no idea. Like I've been around it like for decades, so you know,
Yeah.
I paid attention to you camera guys, man. I watched how y'all move. Even though I had to
All
dance
right.
around you, I was like, okay, I can get a good shot or two.
There's probably a few of us you shouldn't have paid attention to, probably,
Probably,
myself,
but
one of those. Yeah. You didn't look at my stuff, right?
yeah, but y'all produce the best stuff because y'all go rogue.
That's true. That's true. Well, we get into some of those stories, but so I always like to introduce people to the pod by letting them tell us a little bit about their background and how they got into the business in the first place. So, why
Okay.
don't you let us know a little bit about how you decided to get into production?
Okay, I probably had the most unconventional path, and it was so weird. So I was literally working at a swimming pool, and my mother calls me. She's like, "Hey, you should call this number." I'm like, "All right, mom, whatever." She works for Dare. Remember drug abuse, resistance education, or
Yep,
whatever this drug
I remember
program, right?
that.
So
Yep.
apparently they had a deal with a Hollywood producer to produce an intern to go into this program, and someone didn't do their job. So she worked at the corporate office. So I guess they came in and asked her, "Hey, didn't Ronnie do the program?" I was like, "Yeah, I did the program like first grade, bro." I'm like 17, 18 at the time, and actually I was a little older than that. And then so anyway, they reached out to me. I went and did the program. I actually was on an internship with the movie Beverly Hills Ninja with Chris Farley and Chris Rock and a bunch of other people. It's really not one of his biggest movies, but it was got to be around Chris and it was
I remember
it was
it.
first movie right before he passed on. He did that and he
Oh,
passed on a year
yeah.
later. But anyway, so I did that. Met a lot of good people. You know, they were all telling me about this guy Willie Burton, which I come to find out Willie Burton was a huge sound mixer in the movie side of things. So I ended up reaching out to him. Come to find out, his daughter was my cousin's lawyer, which was really weird. But through connections with him, he got me over at Location Sound. So I worked at the rental house over there for years, 7 years total, and really got to learn the gear like inside out. I became senior tech over there. So anybody like a Martin Talty, Keith Garcia, all the top audio guys I was doing reality, I was prepping their packages and sending them out, doing all the wireless and all of that. So after a while, I started sneaking out doing little side shows because, the guys were telling me, hey man, you probably can make more money going out in the field. So sometimes I would get accidentally sick and show up on somebody's set, and I did a few little those TLC shows, little goofy shows, barbershop here, salon here, the really the terrible ones, but it's fun meeting a lot of the crew. And then I ended up getting on board with Martin Talty. He came out, when I first went freelance, he offered me The Apprentice season 2 to do it with him. And so I went out there, did that show with him, got in. I had to do a lot of work with the executive producer on that show because Martin was always in the field. So Jay Beanstalk was the showrunner. So I got, pretty close with him. And when Martin couldn't do The Apprentice 3, he referred me to do it, and which I had never souped the show in my life.
Oh, so you souped pretty early out of the gate, huh? Now, let me
Yeah,
ask you a question. Was audio a passion of yours? I mean, or was it just kind of what you evolved into?
it was very weirdly though. Like as a young kid, I was into car stereos. Like I was really into building like the elaborate car stereo stuff. So sound quality was always a big thing to me. Um, I could I could do your sound system at home, things like that. I was the one fixing the electronics around the house. I was also the one taking it apart to figure out how it worked. I was that kid. So as I got on the TV set, so when we did the internship, you got to intern with every department. So of course, the first one you go to is camera. You know, camera on the movie sets are usually foreign people. So I didn't understand a thing they were talking about. I was like, I just seen the loader always getting yelled at. And I was like, yeah, no, I don't want to do this. I'm staying away from that. This guy screams too much. And then he eventually ended up with the audio guys. The audio guys were fun. They were, one of them was the mixer he was real cool. I didn't, Boom guy didn't like too much. But we were all, it was a good situation enough to where I liked sound enough to want to do it further, but at that time in my life, like I didn't really understand the schedule. So, I'm used to working a few hours and you go home, maybe 8 hours max and you go home. These guys are, oh, we're here till we're done. That can really wrap my head around that. So I was
Yeah.
like,
12 hours is a short day. It used to be, I mean, if
yeah,
you're lucky if you could get out at 12, you know what I mean? So I'm sorry to interrupt you
no
before.
worries.
So at this point, you're fairly new to mixing, and all of a sudden, season 3 of a really big show, a network show, you're the audio soup. Was that
Yeah,
intimidating?
it wasn't, and it was all at the same time. Like, because I was with Martin the first season, and he had to. I mean, the first season we did, which was season 2, he had to rebuild the whole way they recorded audio. And to his credit, he kept me with them the whole step of the way. So like, I was involved with, the designing, the implementing, how we thought about using the A2s. We figured out how many A2s we actually needed, which was a lot more than what we had. And even after we recorded that season, we went to post production, which this is why I really learned from him, and it really did me well in my career. Is we went to post and got to talking to the post mixers and the post editors, and it was so amazing the disconnect that they had with knowing how we recorded audio on reality shows. Like they thought that there was literally a sound mixer like on movie sets with every camera crew, so they couldn't understand why the audio would be choppy at times. And in New York City, bro, like if you can get 5 frequencies to work, you were winning. We were getting,
Oh my God.
30, 40 cast members at a time, depending on who extra we had mic'd up, plus camera sends, which was up in the 60s, total. And so the guys who they were complaining about were pulling off a small miracle, but they were bad mouthing them because they didn't understand what they were going through. So with us, they kind of got a better picture of it, and then I got connected a little bit with Chris Campbell, who was the head of post production over at Mark Burnett Productions at the time,
Mhm.
and he really, really like bought in and sunk into improving the audio quality and streamlining the post process over there. And we worked together a lot. And I think we came together first time on the Contender and really streamlined that with Martin, myself, and the vendor at the time.
Well, I think you bring up a really good point about your reality non-scripted. I don't think that a lot of people in the so-called, industry knew what to do with us, and I don't think they knew how hard it is to do the jobs we do. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
It's like you are on the run and gun, like you say, you're in a city like New York with who knows how many frequencies are, floating around the air in New York. And I just think that I think that people who work in non-scripted are amazing. I think that it's such a talented group of people who have to work with so many seemingly insurmountable challenges. And
yeah,
the fact that we came out with amazing audio, amazing video, beautiful lighting, all of these things. It's just
right,
the people that work in this industry are craftspeople, of the
right.
highest degree. That's the way I feel.
Yeah, and you said it right there. You said the people, and that's where I think the industry is going left, and we'll talk about that later. But they forgot about the people, right? Like think about the things we pulled off on shows. Like remember, the first season of Pros versus Joes. That's the first time I
Yes.
met you, bro. That was a train wreck, right? But it didn't look like it on TV. Like, do you remember climbing in the roof of the Home
Yeah.
Depot Center? Oh
Yeah.
my God, bro! Like that should have been illegal. But like
I
some of the things that we pulled off to get the amazing shot, but like you're talking about the relationships between, you, I, and the AC working together, multiplying that by however many crews is on the show. Like
Mhm.
just the camaraderie you have. Remember Coker? He would be doing his own thing, right? We all
Yeah.
loved Coker. We was like, let
Yes.
Coke do his thing, we'll do our thing, and it all come. You know what I mean? It was just everybody just embraced who everybody was and came together to do good work. And that multiply that over every show we've ever been on, right? Hell's Kitchen, we're literally next to a pizza oven in the blinds, right? Like
Yeah.
we're and then running, we got to go do the reward, which seems glamorous, but it's glamorous for the people on the camera. We're not enjoying all of that. We're on the boat,
No.
but there's a bunch of flies and gnats landing on us while we're trying to shoot, and you know what I mean? Like, but that camaraderie between the crews, like, if anything, being out of the business, that's the part that I miss. I feel like it's almost like the military, right? You see guys, and no disrespect, especially during war times, to what those guys do is not comparing it, but the
For sure.
camaraderie of like having gone through that one crazy show that everybody was just about during the show, and you get on the next show, and it's like it was almost like it's like war guys talk about like, man, remember we survived that one thing, and remember this, and remember that. Like the reminiscing is genuine. It really takes you back to good times because you survived it. Like I know I could depend on you. I know you're not gonna sell me out as a cameraman and just go run off. And while I don't know where we're at, you turned around and was like, Ronnie, let's go. We going over here. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like there's that wasn't happening on every crew. So when you had that on a show, and again multiply that by 6 on the Hell's Kitchen or by 20 something on a Apprentice, like it was special, bro. And like I don't know if they still have that now.
Well, love that you mentioned Pros versus Joes. I was going to talk to you about that show, and you remember it was directed by Scott Messick. Remember he
Yes.
produced and directed, and I love Messick, but his shows were always like usually pretty unpredictable, except for that you could predict that it was going to be chaos and it was going to
Yeah,
be crazy,
right.
and you could predict those things. I do remember I think it was the first night we worked on Pros versus Joes. If
Mhm.
or it was the first episode, maybe not the first night, but anyway, I remember we were doing like the finale of the first episode, and I can't remember exactly who were the athletes were, but Bo Jackson was one of them.
Hmm.
And I remember that things had gone haywire. Oh yeah, Messick produced, and there was a different director. I'm trying to remember his name now. It's been so long.
Oh yeah, I remember him. I don't remember his name, but I remember.
Yeah, I'll think of it at some point, probably after we're done with this episode. But I remember that there was a bunch of technical difficulties, and we were well past midnight. And
Yeah,
I remember the rumor was Bo Jackson wasn't coming out of the locker room until they redid his show deal or whatever. You
yeah.
remember anything about that? Because you
Oh
hear
yeah.
the audio guys, like you said,
We hear
audio guys hear
everything.
things.
Oh yeah. Oh, and you know, both stutter a little bit, especially when he gets mad. He was like, I'm not coming out of this motherfucker until until they get my money right." And I remember at that time he was still huge. Like that
Yeah.
man was still gigantic. You look
Oh
like he could
yeah.
play football with like a couple months of training. He could have been back out there. But I remember it was him, Jenny Finch, and what was the
Yeah,
crazy
Jennifer Finch.
football player, Romanowski, I think from
Oh,
Denver.
Bill Romanowski. Yeah. First
Yeah.
time I saw an adult wear Crocs.
Yeah, I remember. Yeah, it was that guy. It was somebody else too. But it's funny. I deal with Jenny Finch now because she was a
Oh,
big
oh
softball
yeah.
player, and
Makes
so now
sense.
we've talked about that a couple times about that show.
That, that's amazing. I remember. Yeah. And like you said, that's the type of show where you are definitely going to bond because you know who you're going to go to war with at that point. Because
Yeah,
we were working, I remember, I think we wrapped that night at like 5:30 in the
in the
morning. You
morning.
could see the sun coming up, and because we had to try to get it done before the sun came up. I remember we were
Yeah,
battling that, the inevitability of time, but
and that was
those are
every
good times, right?
episode. Yeah, it's good times now. Yeah,
Yeah. Or anytime you survive it, you can look back on it and say, "Hey, remember that?"
I remember
I think
a
it.
funny story, right? So that's when I first met you, and I remember we were throwing the football around. We were always sitting around, so we were throwing the football around. And I remember, I was still athletic at that time, so I caught a ball. And I remember I made a move on somebody and ran off and scored. And you were like, "Oh, it's like Booby." Like, and
Booby
I didn't know about that
Miles
character.
from
See, I
Friday
didn't
Night
know it.
Lights.
I didn't know about that character at all. So I'm like, yo, why is this grown man calling me Booby, bro? Like, and I remember, I went over to you. I was like, "What's with this Booby, dude?" And then that's where we got cool. He was like, "No, it's Booby Miles." I was
Booby
like, "Oh,
Miles, man, from Friday Night Lights. He
I
was the
just never
hero
heard
of
this."
the whole movie.
I was just
Yeah,
like, "Why is this
man.
cameraman calling me Booby, bro? Like, what? We gonna stop this now."
Yeah, let's see. Well, you were a big guy. I wouldn't fuck with you. Let me just know that. I know I'm smarter than I look.
That was one of my funny memories. How they? I wonder if Brett remembers that.
Oh, dude, I have absolutely. Again, that's kind of the whole point of this is to kind of go back and look at some of this stuff. You know what I mean? Because
Right.
especially now, people aren't working together as much. I mean, and the camaraderie is so important to these shows. I think.
Yeah,
And
I
now
think it's huge.
we don't have it. It's
Mm.
like people. There's just not enough shows anymore, and we'll get to that. We'll talk about that. I want to get your opinion about that stuff, but anyway, so kind of going back. So at this point, you were pretty well established, both as a mixer, but also as an audio supervisor. Any shows in particular that stand out for you?
The Apprentice was a big one for me. That put me on the map. You know what I mean? Like I went from being unknown to, damn, he tackled that show. Like I don't even think people realize that was the first show I ever supervised. And we're talking about 20 plus crews. Just in audio mixers and A2s, I had 26 people that I had to manage, follow, make sure that they were prepared and get ready. And that crew size evolved from season two because I kind of knew through dealing with Martin, and we saw kind of where we fell short because that's not a show you're gonna do correct your first season ever doing it, like because
Yeah.
you're not gonna have the information unless it's passed on from the other guy, and we didn't have that access. So he did the best he can, but it took me and him literally working every day of the show. I think I had 1 day off season 2. He
Oh
had none,
man.
and we found and Apprentice went 24 hours. So it's
And
probably
for
really doing
months,
that.
or a couple
From
months, right?
it was like 2 months. So it was like, I think that and Amazing Race were probably the realest shows out because like they really did not stop. And if a cast member got up at 12 in the morning to go, to a Kinko's over in Long Island, like a crew had to go with them, which meant an
Yeah.
A2 had to go with them. So you had to have people available 24 hours a day. And, back when they had the regular cast members, they weren't that bright. So they would do stuff like that. Like, there's Kinko's on every corner in Manhattan. But this one I remember one had to go get a bedazzler or something way on Long Island before it closed. So that crew that was about to get off had to go with them. So anyway, season 3 was a little more structured. And then after that, I did the first contender with Martin, but then I supervised the second and the rest. Even the last one that no one saw, that was probably the best one we ever did. And I did that. I did Rockstar NXS when that came out. And then it went to Rockstar Supernova the next year. Lucha Underground. That was more like in the Latino culture, but that was actually one of the funnest shows I ever did. It was
Yeah.
Lucha Wrestling. Man, I thought that stuff was fake. Man, them dudes are crazy.
Did they
But
do more than one season of that?
they did multiple. I want to say we did 3 seasons of that,
Okay.
and that show was great because we only did it on the weekend, so you could do your other shows Monday through Friday and then roll in. My last show I ever did was Big Brother. I can't remember what season was. Whatever season they shot, 2021.
Yeah. Wow. Well, I know that you've done a ton of stuff, man,
Mm,
and um since we're on the subject of it, so 2021, obviously that was around COVID. I think things changed for everybody, changed for the world, obviously, but
mm,
um I do know that a lot of people went back to work fairly quickly,
mm.
after COVID first hit. It was about, I think for some of us, about 3 months and we were back working. So
Yeah,
do you recall anything about that time going back to work?
yeah, 2020. Yeah, I went back fairly early as well. I just remember all the systems, all the testing, all the these crews can't go to this area. These crews, yet they were color coding areas. So now you can't do this. You can't go over here. You gotta. That was kind of the beginning. 2020 was the beginning of me really starting to think about leaving the business because I saw them scale crews back but increase the workload and get away with it. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
I
you
s-
mentioned something to me off camera and I want to get back to. You had said as an audio soup, you heard a lot of things because audio touches every department, every situation. You're involved with the producers, the showrunners, the EICs, all of that. Um,
yeah,
and you you told me basically that you would hear things that maybe influenced your decision.
yeah. Well, I would hear. When when you're at that level, especially with me, I had enough respect in the game where I would hear the numbers from our side of the game, audio wise.
Mhm.
So over the years, I learned how they move money around. If I saved them 20 grand on batteries, that 20 grand went somewhere else. You know what I mean? As far as in the budget. So I would start hearing these conversations where inadvertently, or sometimes they don't even think I'm listening, where they were really, really excited about producing the same things for less money, but yet making the same money, if not more.
And you were hearing
Um,
this.
I can hear it, like whatever you
Yeah.
having, they're having, somebody will be on the phone. When you go on scouts, people be on the phone. I was in the executive van a lot, so I could hear, it, and I'm like, huh. I'm just listening. I don't, I'm one of them. I'll be a fly on the wall. I'm a big fly, but I'm a fly on the wall, and I'll just listen. And I was like, okay, if they're figuring this out, and they're getting away with, when we used to have X amount of crews, they're gonna start trying to cut crews back. And if all these guys that are leading now that are of that mentality of, oh, I'll make it work, I'll make it work, I'll make it work. then if those guys take over, the industry is gonna do a major pivot in the wrong direction. Because I was one of those guys, and not just me, you know, Martin was definitely one of them. There's other guys, this camera, different departments that would fight for the crews. That would literally be like, listen, they're not making enough. I need more of this. We need better gear. We need this, not to have luxuries, but instead of spending half my day fixing a vendor's gear because they just threw it in with the camera package. I don't care that you getting that gear free, but make them get us good gear, right? And so we would fight that battle. When I first came on The Apprentice, and to their credit, they adjusted the mixers. There would be a mixer making $400, and there'd be another mixer making five. Because of how long they've been working with the company or influenced through a camera person or whatnot. Like the camera guys picked the audio department, and then the audio soup just got picked to bring them together. That's
Really?
how it was. Yeah, all the camera guys had
Holy
their
cow.
person. And most of them would come over from whatever other Burnett show they just got off of, whether it was Casino or Survivor. And so, when we did season 2, we had a crew like that, and it didn't really work well. We got away with it, but it didn't work well. So season 3, that was one of my stipulations. I was like, listen, if I'm going to be responsible for the audio, then I need to pick the roster. Right. And then, to Jay Beansaw's credit, he was on board with that. He was just like, but can the camera people pick their mixers? I'm like, sure. That I don't know. That I don't care
From
about.
the pool that you had, from the
From my
people that you
pool.
had, yeah, from
Yeah.
your pool, yeah.
Like, here's my list.
That
They can
makes
pick
sense.
whoever. I don't,
Sure,
I don't care.
that makes sense.
They just need to know that all of them guys, because I brought in a bunch of new guys. Like, I brought in guys that I knew from Location Sound that maybe weren't all the way in the industry, but they were technically sound. They could do it. Because I don't know if you remember back in the day, they used to have a lot of music videos. I stole a lot of the guys from the music video side. I've taken a lot of guys that used to be ACs and turned them into audio mixers, and now some of them are super now. I took Jimmy John. He was assistant video tech. We were doing Rockstar. I was like, man, I'm gonna steal you. Took him and taught him audio, and you see him now. But so we all kind of built a strong team. So then whoever the camera guys picked, they were gonna have a solid crew. And a lot of them got their guys because if their guys were good, they came back anyway. I didn't blow up that crew. I just kept the top ones and then replaced the rest. Because there was a lot of guys that were on there that, you were making 400 for a reason. You were a $400 mixer. We basically, it was almost like a union thing where everybody's making X. Everybody's making the same thing, which got away of all the drama just in the audio crew. Because the crew didn't really, there was beefs going, oh, you're making this and I'm making this, so we got rid of all of that. Everybody's making the same damn thing. You guys are good. Everything's the same. And then we got better gear. The vendor went and bought brand new stuff and, put us in a better position to execute that show. So I feel like that was a good situation. That didn't, toward the end, I start seeing that was no longer the agenda. The agenda was just get the show done. We don't even care if it sounds great, just sound good enough. You know what I mean? Like, I really felt like the quality all around the board, not just sound, but the look. Like, I mean, look at now. Like, I could probably produce a TV show with the DJI stuff that I have. Like, that's what I hear they're shooting with, like Osmo Pocket 3s, and
Yeah,
that's what I use That's what I use for these kids' videos for their college promotions
for
and stuff.
sure.
But I just saw like young people coming in, new people coming in, not realizing the fight that happened before them and undercutting all that work that had been done before them, like taking lower rates or, hey, I'll do the show for 500, but you rent my gear, and then they don't even rent the gear at full price. So it was just a lot of undercutting going on, and people weren't, before they would take you cost more, but you save me a little bit. You save me money in post because you're gonna give me a bunch of shots I could use. So I'm not gonna go away from you to, let's just get a bunch of people that get us a bunch of shots and we'll figure it out. The artist of the game, I feel like got taken aback a little bit. You know what I mean? The real art of audio, the art of camera, the art of lighting. Even the production side of it. It was people that were just got stuff done, but you had to pay them because they were going to dedicate their entire lives during that show to doing that job. And I feel like those people kind of got pushed to the side a little bit. for these people who would just come in and just be so glad to be working that they take anything, or they'll take less than what we worked hard to establish. And I seen that coming in like a big wave. Like, I don't know if that's taken over, but I felt like it was about to.
So you kind of could see the writing on the wall a little bit at
I
that point. That
did.
was 21, 22.
It was a little before that. It was, I want to say, 1920, right
Oh,
before
really?
COVID hit. I saw it coming. And then when COVID hit, it got accelerated because remember, we came back, but you can only have so many people. So then, you saw shows. I forget what show I was working on. We were shooting up at Casamigos area, and I remember the crew was maybe 2/3 of what it was before, and we were doing the same stuff. And if this works, that other third is never coming back, and it did it.
So, what gave you the conviction, though? Because that's a pretty big. You were pretty well established at that point. You'd been
Hmm.
working for many years in the industry, and what was it that kind of made you decide to make such a pretty bold, career move?
Um, it wasn't just a drop in the bucket. So my daughter was born in 2011. So when she was born, you know what I mean. I kind of stopped working out of town. If I did go out of town, those short periods of time. So like the last Celebrity Apprentice 4, I set it up, but I didn't do it. Like someone else did it, and that was the last time I was involved with that show. Like even when they came to LA, I didn't do it. Um, I'd say right around there. And then as she started growing up, like I'm not I'm a very active father. Like I'm very active in her life. Like almost probably more than normal. Like I literally take her to school, drop her off, helped her with her homework. I did a lot of things. My wife's a principal of a school too, so she was also very busy working a lot. You know what I mean? So we didn't have a traditional like, well, okay, you do this and I'll go win all the money. Like we both were working and both involved in dealing with all her activities. And as she's got older, her activities increased. I got involved with going back to my sports side with dealing with baseball in like 2014. So I was doing that whenever I wasn't working on shows, or even when I would get off and, go work with this high school baseball team that I was working with at the time, and eventually involved into what I do that now. Like I started building this academy then, not fully with a plan. Just was evolving. I was getting more and more clientele, and I was like, if I ever got this, like I enjoyed it. It was really fun. Like going to work started becoming not as fun as it used to be. You know what I mean? The
Yeah.
tech room wasn't fun. Even like when I did Big Brother, it was a lot of, you had the old and the new in there, and there was a lot of just unnecessary tension in the place to where it just wasn't fun going to work. The money, Friday was always great, but the fun that we had, the tech room, the camaraderie, all just wasn't there. You
What
know
do you
what I
think that
mean?
tension was from? What do you think that the tension kind of stemmed from? Within the crews, I guess, or within the people the laborers.
On that particular show, there's so it's such a cush job. Like it's literally a job you can sit on and retire. You know what I mean? You'll get all your hours, you get all the so it's a lot of people jockeying for them positions. So then when you mix those in with people that are day playing, the day players want the permanent positions. The older people who've been there forever don't want to lose their positions to guys like me who are coming in with a lot of experience that could do what they can do, if not more,
Yeah.
because technology started changing. So there was drama with that. And it was just silly stuff that like it used to make me mad. And I'm like, look, I don't even want to be doing this, and you're worried about me taking your job, but I'm trying to find a pivot out of here. And then once again, I got I had my academy thing kind of going on the side. It wasn't substantial, wasn't nothing that we're like, oh, I'm gonna just go do this. But then, so I right around I had been getting I was started getting sick around 2015. I was born with liver disease as a kid and they fixed it temporarily. I didn't realize it was temporary though. My parents never told me it was temporary. It was like, oh, it's fixed. Right around 2015 it started deteriorating. Started, getting the yellow eyes, all of that type of thing.
Mm.
So right around 2020, they told me I was going to need a transplant. So I did all that process to get on the list and whatnot. And in 2021, right around August, late August, mid September, started really going downhill. And then
Oh, jeez.
luckily, I ended up getting a liver, being on number one on the list, and having a liver be available right around October 15th that year. And so I had the transplant. Sat in the hospital for a month. And right around that time, man, I really started thinking, like, man, if I had died, what did I do? Like, what would people tell my daughter? Your dad was a great sound mixer. Your dad was a great audio suit. Like, that wasn't enough for me. Like, you know what I mean? Like, to me, I was
Yeah.
like, that's cool. And that's if they would even say that. But it just wasn't enough. And I felt like I wanted to do more. And like, I just got to the point where living the rest of my life was going to become about my purpose. I didn't know what that was, but I was going to find it, figure it out. And I knew it wasn't necessarily in the TV business. So I was like, I'm either going to build this academy and do some good things. And maybe that's a gateway to me figuring out the ultimate thing, or I don't know. But I know I did not necessarily want to go back to the game as is. If the game was the way it was when we were all hanging out, I would have ran back to it. I would have ran back to it, but it wasn't. I mean, even the stuff I hear now, like, I am still in touch with a lot of guys, and
Yeah.
I hear from different perspectives, but I hear the same things, and it's sort of like I feel bad for the guys because there's a there's a lot of people who don't want to pivot, and they shouldn't have to, and there's a lot of people who want to but don't have the thing to do, or don't know what to do. Maybe they do have and they just don't realize it yet. And quite honestly, like, I feel like they shouldn't even have to. Like, I feel like, the money's there, man. I think I feel like there's a level of greed, right? Like, how much more money do you freaking need that you can't keep hiring these crews? Yes, I think the state should do more. I think California's a little arrogant. I think they don't think that they're gonna do like Detroit did, and they are. They need to find, if they match the incentives, why would any of these people leave? Why would they leave? Like, this is Hollywood. Everything is here. Why would they leave? They probably wouldn't, but they're saving so much money going elsewhere, and that's the goal, right? They're not thinking about the people, which we're going back to earlier, not thinking about all the people that they're leaving behind. They're not thinking about all the American workers that they're leaving behind as they go overseas. They're just thinking about the bottom line for a small percentage of people, but you're leaving behind a ton of people and you don't care. And that's
Yeah.
bothersome because you have an example. Look at Detroit. Like, the automotive industry affected that whole state of Michigan. Like, it still affects them to this day, like losing that industry. Like, that alone, I mean, look how many people's lives went from being generationally working in those plants and doing that work and being proud to make these cars that they were also driving and
Yeah.
seeing on the road every day,
Hmm.
to not having anything and probably hating every car they see on the road because that car represented their poverty. Like, are we gonna end up doing that with TV? Oh, I don't want to watch that show because they filmed it in Connecticut, and we used to film it over here on Van Owen and
Hmm.
Sherman Way. But how many of my friends who are struggling right now are struggling because that show went to Connecticut? You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
that's,
Yeah.
being
I know.
outside and being on the outside and hearing how you guys are dealing with this. Like, it's frustrating. Like,
Yeah.
I'm not in it. I'm not affected technically by it, but I am because these are my friends. And I wish I had, like, you know what I do, and it's so weird. I look at like how much we film in what I do, and I always look like, I wonder if these guys could just start their own little production company and take over this stuff. But it's not the same money. It's definitely not the
No.
insurance.
No.
And if the money was there, I'd be like, look, dude, come here, look, get a couple guys, get some cameras. I'll get you in here. We're gonna do it. I'll push you through. Listen, I wish I could do that for everybody, but the money is not the same. It's
No.
not. I know what you guys used to get, and it's not gonna cover your bills.
No. I know. Well, the thing is that everything you said, you are a man of wisdom, Ronnie, and everything you said was true about all of it. Um, I feel like there's been an arrogance of the state of California. They didn't take care of their industry. They're really
Mm-mm.
they're what the industry that they're known for. I know that they do a lot of things in California, but Hollywood is, that is like
That's
the
the
image,
brand.
the icon. That's the
Mm,
shining star at the top of the hill that everybody thinks about. California, Los Angeles, and they
right.
just didn't do enough until it was too late. Now they're trying, and unfortunately, it might be too late. And
And even the try is half-hearted. It's
yeah,
not like you can't do the baby steps that you should have did 5 years ago. You got to go hard and
yeah,
not. You know what I mean? You got to pour a wave of incentives and be like, look, guys, you don't come back now. It's got to be overwhelming,
yeah,
and they're not going to do that. They're too busy doing other randomness.
yeah. And the thing is now, as workers, we do make a decent amount of money, but it's like you have to prepare yourself for the possibility that if you want to keep working, you're not going to be working under the same circumstances. You're not going to make as much money. You're not
Mm,
going to work as many jobs. You might not have health care. I mean, these are
right.
really brutal things that we're dealing with, right now. It's a little rough. I'll say that, and that's kind of why the podcast exists. It's to talk to
Mm-mm.
people and see, you know.
Right.
But
Is it true that the union
I don't
made it
know.
harder
I
to
mean,
qualify?
do you have any thoughts? What's that?
I say, is it true that the
What
union
were you
made it
saying?
harder for people? Is it true that the union made it harder for people to qualify for insurance?
Not yet. It's the same amount of hours, you have to have for at least for the 600, you
Mm-hmm.
need 400 hours in a 6-month period to
Mm-hmm.
qualify. I want to say that you need a certain amount, like maybe 450 to establish it if you haven't had it, but then you need
Mm-hmm.
400 after that to
Yeah.
continue. And then I haven't yet spent the time looking at what's going to happen if I don't get enough hours. I happen to have some in my bank. I mean, I'm dealing
Right.
with stuff everybody's dealing with. I've seen a lot of posts on social media that, hey, I'm 30 hours short, and I have 3 weeks, in order to get those 30 hours. Can anybody help me? It's
Right.
really, yeah, it's pretty brutal,
Yeah.
So,
And,
but
and I wonder,
here's the
I
deal.
wonder,
Oh,
like,
gosh. Yep.
could I don't know the numbers. 'Cause I'm not a super
Yeah.
union guy, but if somebody's days, like less than 100 days, less than 50 days, you can't just get them in. You can't just, you know what I mean? Oh, you
Mhm.
lost because you're a day off.
Yeah.
Like as much as we sacrifice to sometimes turn shows, you could turn a show and be
Mhm.
the forefront of it. That show turns, continues, but you will never work for them ever again if that production decides to be like that. So you
Mhm.
take that risk every time you decide to turn a show. But
That's
they're
true.
gonna take away my insurance because I'm single digit days short. Like that bothers me.
Well, the truth of the matter now is that the shows aren't there to turn even. There's just not that many shows. And I mean, the unions are suffering too. I'm not like trying to defend what you're talking about, as
Right.
far as the unions go, but they're they're not making as much money either because I mean, let's face it, there's not enough union shows. Once they go out of the country, they're gone, and all that income, all that revenue is gone
Hmm.
with it. So
Right. And
hey,
they're and
let's
they're
not.
hiring those crews over there because them crews
Yeah,
countries give them
yeah.
insurance.
Well, like I say, it's been said that we've maybe trained the world to make these shows, and now now they know how to make these shows, and they don't need us anymore. You
And
know what I mean? It's like,
man,
but
that's crazy. That's what I man. When I was watching Mandy's episode, I was like, that really hit me.
yeah,
Like she's right. You know what I mean? Like here we are, open arms, and yeah, man, do this, do this. It made me proud that when they did Contender Thailand, I got offered to help the guy, and I didn't do it, and I'm glad I didn't because he had to figure it out and he came back home. But
yeah,
like, but I just feel like I don't know. I don't know all the numbers, and it's easy for me to say a lot of this being on the outside, but like I do feel for you guys. I do keep my ear. I'm hoping it gets better. I think there's a way to get it better. I just don't know what that is, and I don't know if the people that can make it happen care enough, and that's
well,
sad. That's the
yeah.
again, it goes back to the people thing. It's like everybody's gimme, gimme, gimme. They're not like if I got it's like Scrooge McDuck. Remember DuckTales? Like I got all this money, right? I I'm not saying like I'm not no big socialist and nothing that, but if
Hmm.
one person doesn't need to have it all, and when you got so much you can never do anything with it, and that's a life changer for these other people. Like I don't get it. Like I mean, like for me, like leaving the industry, like I'm kind of glad I did leave when I left, not because I got out of this situation, but maybe every job I would have gotten during this time that I really didn't care if I had it or not is going to somebody who really needs it. And so I feel better about that. Like I'm not taking money out of somebody else's pocket who really really needs it, or their health hours when I'm on my wife's health care.
Yeah.
I didn't need it. You know what I mean? So I'm not stealing from you guys, but I also I just wish the human element of it would come back, 'cause I feel like that's where the solution is. Is that you got to go these big wigs or whoever the big money, they got to start caring about people. Like they got to care about people. You're set. You're already set. You were set 10 years ago. Now, take care of the people. So down the line, the industry still exists. For so many people, there's like you're literally people you looked in the face and you saw them. You walked by them in a tech room. You hired them over the phone. Those people are hurting right now, and I bet you don't even pick up the phone for them. But you used to preach to
Those are
us.
words to live by, brother.
Yep.
Absolutely.
Hey, I'll tell you, man. I'll tell you one thing real quick.
Yep.
I was around the fight game quite a bit younger, and I met Don King, and I remember Don King said to me, it was a group of us. He was like, "You're only useful as long as you're necessary to most people." And that phrase, mind you, that was a 30-second interaction with this man that is stuck in my head for over 25 years.
That is absolutely words to live by. So,
It's been proven over and over,
yes, it has.
unfortunately, you know.
Well, listen, Ronnie Ali, thank you so much for taking the time to talk to me, man. I mean, I miss
Man, I miss you,
you.
bro.
Oh, I've got nothing but love for you, dude. And hopefully we can run across each other. I'm so glad that your new venture is working out so well. That sounds so great and so useful. And I'm glad that
Mm,
you are happy. More
I
than anything,
appreciate
I'm
it.
glad you're happy.
I appreciate it.
So,
I mean, listen, I tell people, when you have a transplant, right, and you got to go through this mental phase where you got to be willing to die to get your life back. I think when you go through something like that, it changes your perspective, but it makes even though I feel I'm happy, I want y'all to be happy too, man. I was in them trenches with you guys. I know what that's like. I know what it would be like if I was still there, especially having a daughter, having a wife, having all these responsibilities. I'm looking at these faces on your podcast, and those are my homies, man. Like I remember everybody, like, and I'm like, and I'm seeing the concern, I'm seeing the passion, the
mhm.
love for the game, just wanting it to come back, and I want it for you guys, but at the same time, like I like when Mandy said, if you ever do a group round circle table form thing, I'm all in, bro.
All
If
right,
you
man.
need me, I'm
Absolutely.
there. If listen, if I hear anything out here that y'all can take a part of, and it just put a few dollars in your pocket and y'all open to it, I'll tell you about it because I'm gonna tell you these. youth. There's a lot of money in youth sports, fellas.
Mhm.
There's a lot, and the wrong people are filling their pockets with it.
All
The
right.
wrong people.
Well, we'll make that right. And yeah, you have my number, dude. So,
Got it.
I'm available. Well, thanks,
Yeah.
Ronnie, so much for talking. And as far as everybody else, this is B. Smith Second Sticks, and we are speeding. Thanks again to Ronnie Ali for joining us. If you happen to be listening, thanks so much, and please share the word and hit like and subscribe. B. Smith Second Sticks is produced and edited by Brett Smith. Our music is Hit and Run by the Sluts with Nuts and is licensed under an Attribution 4.0 international license. See you soon.
This verse, I don't know what to say, but it's like gift from the state.